think the hour has come for the delegate from Augusta and the delegate from Scott. So I'll give you both delegates the floor. Reluctantly.
All right. Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House, the time has come. The time that everyone's been waiting for all year. I'll tell you, this year with the new elections, we were excited in the Sensitivity Caucus about some of the prizes that we were going to be able to give away this year. And we've had a tough time this year. We've had subcommittees, we had committees meeting, trying to ferret out a lot of these awards, Mr. Speaker. So it's been tough. We've had Price Waterhouse tabulate the final results this morning, and we are now in the process of giving out these awards. Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House, I hope that everybody left their feelings, checked their feelings at the door. This is a fun event. We're a family here, so we're going to go ahead and get through. Maybe a little dysfunctional, but we're still going to get through these awards. We've had a lot of help from Delegate Hugo, Delegate Marshall, Delegate Bell in keeping track of some of the things that have happened this year, whether it be on the floor, in committee, in the hall. There's just been a lot of things that's happened around the Capitol, around the Pocahontas building, here in the chamber, and we're excited about what we're about to do today. Well, the first prize or first certificate that we're going to do, and these are certificates suitable for framing, so I would expect that everyone would be framing their certificate as they go through the as they get their awards and take it back to their office. The first one goes to the Hello, Mr. Speaky Award is what we call this one. This is from the Delegate Byram from Campbell. She gets up on the floor and goes, "Hello, Mr. Speaky," not Mr. Speaker, as we normally do, but hello, Mr. Speaky. So we would actually want to give this certificate to Delegate Byram, which is the Virginia House of Delegates Pop-Up Awards, the Mr. Speaky Award. Thank you. The next award, Mr. Speaker, we have Delegate Mullins from Williamsburg. Well, I did not know until the Delegate Hodges that called him that he's also known as Delegate Mulligan. So we were just thought that Delegate Hodges probably needed the Mulligan Award with some golf balls, because that's usually what mulligans are used for in golf. So, Delegate Hodges, we are going to give you the first annual Mulligan Award for mispronouncing the name of Delegate Mullins. All right. Mr. Speaker, we also had some interesting times on the floor of the House this year, and one of the interesting times that we talked about was STDs. And we had that one of our doctor, he's a doctor, or he claims to be a doctor. He claimed that he treated more STDs than anyone in this room, and I am so thankful he has. So the STD award goes to our own Delegate Stolle. And, Mr. Speaker, one day, one of our freshmen, he tugged on our heartstrings one day. We were sitting here, eating our lunch, minding our own business, as the Sensitivity Caucus usually does during the morning hour. And we were sitting here, and all of a sudden one of our freshman delegates gets up and goes, "No better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than distinct image of our tiny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another." Mr. Speaker, our own Delegate Carter gets the Pale Blue Dot Award with a picture of planet Earth. And Mr. Speaker, with that, I'm going to yield to my seatmate, Delegate Landis.
Point of personal privilege, Mr. Speaker.
The delegate has the floor.
Mr. Speaker and members of the House, as often we know, those of us that chair committees have been given the responsibility, especially related to Senate bills and sometimes House bills, in helping those along, to represent the issue before the House and to explain them fully so that the House understands what we're about to vote on. Well, Mr. Speaker, when you're a new chairman, it's a very tense time when you've been given this responsibility, especially with Senate bills, given the fact that you don't always know them as well as you do House bills. Well, one of our new chairmen this year, unfortunately, explained one bill, then later on in the calendar explained the other bill, realizing that the prior bill was the one he was supposed to be explaining for the current bill. So there was some confusion. He did own up to the fact that he basically explained the wrong bill. So for our new chairman, he was trying to get out before we could give him this. For the new chairman for our Transportation Committee, we have the annual Wrong Bill Award for Delegate Yancey, chairman of our Transportation Committee. Mr. Speaker, as you all know, we really take seriously the support staff that we have, especially the individuals who work for us in our offices. And most of us really try to recognize the fact that they work hard for us, and also try to be kind to them, because we know that they can either make us successful or not. Well, one of our members, having missed a deadline for introduction of legislation, mentioned the fact that the reason that he was not able to introduce the legislation on time was because his legislative assistant had neglected to get the information in on time and make sure that that was accomplished. Mr. Speaker, I've also found out that, as you all know, the day after he mentioned that, after we agreed to unanimous consent for introduction of the legislation, he came back and apologized to said legislative assistant after she basically read him the riot act when he got back to his office, and duly so. So, Mr. Speaker, we have the Virginia House of Delegates pop-up awards, the Throw Your Aid Under the Bus Award, with a bus that has mega tires. There we go. To the gentleman from Campbell, Delegate Ferris. Mr. Speaker, we also, for our freshmen, we also pay attention very closely in trying to learn more about their backgrounds and their experience. And we have a gentleman who I've had the honor of getting to know better since I'm acting as his mentor this year. And we always appreciate our veterans and their service. But we found out a little bit more about Delegate McGuire and his service as a Navy SEAL, that his code name was Pitbull. And he is, and I have seen that firsthand, but we wanted to honor him by giving him the Pitbull Award to Delegate McGuire. Thank you for your service. Mr. Speaker, I've had the privilege of serving with this gentle lady for a number of years on the Education Committee. And she spoke very passionately about some of the problems that we're having, and I'm not going to reopen the debate related to gun violence, but on some of the issues concerning what's happening in our society. And she also mentioned specifically an example of her own family, and obviously we do that from time to time. and mentioned the fact that her son sits at home in front of the TV related to doing various games. And so we have for Delegate Pogge the Babylonian Idiot Box Award with the professional farmer game that she can give to her son that's probably a little bit more appropriate than some of those other games he may be playing. So for Delegate Pogge. And Mr. Speaker, I want to again recognize one of our freshmen because, again, we're trying to be bipartisan and we're also trying to recognize those that we've noticed. As you all know, we watch and watch and watch, not only on the floor but in committee. And one of our new members has been consistently rising and recognizing, upon introduction, any group who's introduced in the House of Delegates. And we really do appreciate her efforts along those lines. And Mr. Speaker, we want to give to Delegate Rome the Standing Ovation Award. I think everyone should rise and recognize her. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to yield back to the gentleman from Scott.
Delegate from Scott, Delegate Kilgore.
Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, those of us who are a little bit older, we always try to get in with the young millennial crowd and try to use some of their catchphrases as we're going through the process here in the General Assembly, and we use these catchphrases in some of our political speeches. And no one does it better than my seatmate, the gentleman from Fairfax, Delegate Hugo. He uses those catchphrases well. He'll have them written down. I see him checking his computer to check and see what the latest fad's going on. And, you know, this year, I'm not sure he really understood what the new fad was for the millennials on Netflix and chill. Because, I mean, we were sitting here like, oh, my gosh, is he saying that? So, he was talking about the next Netflix tax and all this. And, he was saying all he wants to do is Netflix and chill. But I do not think he really understood that. So what we did was we got him some popcorn and the annual Netflix and Chill Award, considering his age. So. And next, Mr. Speaker, we had a incident on the floor with one of our new delegates. Got rather sick, and I want to thank the doctors for doing that. So we thought that Delegate Gooditis, we were thinking Gooditis. Gooditis. What is that? Some new illness? So we thought, well, maybe that is a new illness, Gooditis. So we thought, well, we would give her the New Illness Award and thank her and thank the doctors in the House for taking care of this new illness. So thank you. And also, Mr. Speaker, with the new numbers in the House, someone had to sit over on the other side. Someone had to do that. So we were thinking about what kind of award could we give the delegate from Pittsylvania County to show that we appreciate it. So we thought of it, and thought of it again, and we decided that, he's doing some missionary work. All these churches send missionaries to these foreign lands. So we're giving Les Adams the annual Missionary of the Year Award. And Mr. Speaker, those of you all who do any type of work at home know that there are two types of sandpaper. All right, you've got the fine sandpaper, which you rub and rub and rub and rub, and it takes a while. It's just something constant. And then you've got the more coarse sandpaper, which you rub it once and it just fixes whatever you do. So, we were thinking about sandpaper. How would this apply to the folks here in the General Assembly? Well, we have a gentleman from Northern Virginia, Delegate Levine, who's more like the fine sandpaper. He's a gift that keeps on giving. He's not as sensitive as some, but we thought that we would give him the most sensitive award for some of his comments, calling people out on certain issues and things of that nature. But he just keeps giving and giving and giving. So we wanted to give him the fine sandpaper award. And then, Mr. Speaker, there's that coarse sandpaper. That's the sandpaper that just rips the skin off if you get it on your thing. And really, we didn't have anybody to give that to until last Friday. And last Friday, we decided, oh my gosh, this is where the abrasive sandpaper goes to after the speech in the morning hour. And that abrasive sandpaper award goes to our own Nick Freitas. Go back to
Mr. Speaker, as you all know, again, we look at individual members' voting records. We see what they do in committee. And for this young man, a new member of the House, the Republicans have specifically noted that his voting record is a lot like ours, but he sits on the other side. So, Mr. Speaker, for our former House page, son of a former member, we have who is ranked number 10 by Virginia Free. We have the 52nd Republican Award. For Delegate Jones, obviously.
Mr. Speaker.
Delegate Shenandoah, Delegate Gilbert.
Speaker, I have a press release from his primary opponent that just came out for some reason. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, as most of you know, we also get the assistance from many staff members on awards. And we noted, and Ethan told us this early on in the session, a certain member enjoys Mr. Goodbars. And every day he comes and digs for the Mr. Goodbars. The gentleman probably realized at some point in session that there were fewer and fewer and fewer Mr. Goodbars, and it wasn't because he was actually taking them out of the jar. We have collected all of the Mr. Goodbars that we could find for Delegate Wright, and also are providing him with the Mr. Goodbar Award, along with the Goodbars. Mr. Speaker, as you all know, one of the most contentious debates we've had, and we're still working on, is related to whether we're going to expand Medicaid or not. And one of the speeches that we all realized was very important in that discussion was during that debate on the budget, that there was a discussion related to the Kentucky plan. And this gentleman reminded us what the Kentucky plan was about and what they were trying to accomplish in the Kentucky plan. So we thought that the best thing that we could do for him is to reward him, and we're rewarding to Delegate Klein the Kentucky Fried Award with a Kentucky Fried Chicken bucket, and thanking him for that. Mr. Speaker, I yield back to the gentleman from Scott.
And Mr. Speaker, we all try to be funny in the House. I mean, we all try to. In committees, we try to be funny. And, now with now that we've started streaming live videos, it's easier for us to catch things that are going on in committee. And I really want to thank my staff who's in the audience, because they have gone over hours and hours of video, going back and playing them back and forth for Delegate Landis, and I really want to thank them for that. But one that we really caught and that was it was very funny, we thought. And and I think you all will think it is too. And it got worldwide attention, or it got national attention anyway. But we decided that one of our delegates was trying to be funny, and it was funny. But we decided that we wanted to give the Comrade Award, to Delegate Keem, and also give him a more appropriate flag, a Virginia flag, next time to put behind someone when they decide to do that. But if we could give Delegate Keem the Comrade Award. And Mr. Speaker, we've had some moving speeches on the floor this time, and a lot of the speeches that concerned the gentleman from Botetourt and his sickness, and there was a lot of bipartisan speeches given, and we appreciate that. Barry Knight giving the speech for Gordon, that was very much appreciative. But one of the most moving speeches for me, Mr. Speaker, it came from my seatmate. Mr. Speaker, when talking about the budget, he was talking about the budget and going on, and how he couldn't vote for a budget, and a tear streamed down his eye. I mean, I was here, Mr. Speaker. I'd never seen anyone cry over the budget, but my seatmate, I wanted to make sure that he had a box of tissues for that. So I want to give Steve Landis a Speech Award. And now it comes, now I'm going to turn it back over to Delegate Landis.
Mr. Speaker, members of the House, as you know, we pick a Freshman of the Year every year. And as many members know that have served for a while, for you new members, you probably don't know this, but Delegate Habib was Freshman of the Year for like 3 or 4 years in a row, even after he was no longer freshman. So, Mr. Speaker, as you all know, there's been a certain member of the House that seems to have received the applause on every piece of legislation, and today, every amendment that's been agreed to and conference report that he has put forward. So we, I think Delegate Kilgore and I felt that we just had to, and no disrespect to you actual freshmen, we just had to give the Freshman of the Year award to Delegate Pillion for all his great efforts this session. I will. I got it. Okay. Mr. Speaker, as you know, this is your first session as Speaker. Or former chairman. And Mr. Speaker, as you know, you followed, as you said yesterday, a man of high integrity and character. And Mr. Speaker, all seriously, I think you embody those characteristics as well. But we were concerned that you would not have the same wit and quick comebacks that Speaker Bill Howe, and for those of you that did not have a chance and honor to serve with him, every member can tell you he was quick on his feet with a comeback on everything. So that was a tough act to follow, Mr. Speaker, and we know that. Your staff and Delegate Kilgore and I and the members of the Sensitivity Caucus have been following you very closely this session, as you know. And we have been counting and looking for every time you have made a humorous statement or comeback for one of the pieces of legislation or one of the bills or one of something a member has said. And, Mr. Speaker, to be honest, it was a very slow count to start with. And we were hoping and we were praying that there would be more. And there were more. And, Mr. Speaker, we are proud to be able to honor you today with a special award and with a total count, as of this morning, we count 17 humorous remarks or comebacks for this session. And, Mr. Speaker, we're being kind of generous, we think, because the award is actually named the Attempted Humor Award, and we do have a book, How to Be Funny, the one and only practical guide for every occasion, situation, and disaster. No kidding. So, Mr. Speaker, the Attempted Humor Award for you this session, and we look forward to many, many more counts of humor. So, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I need to...
I thank the former chairman of education.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now I turn it back over to Delegate Scott for the most important award.
All right, and now we're to the most important award of the day. This is the Pop-Up Award, and this is where we choose the teams, and we keep count on how many times you pop up on a bill that's not your own, just so you can let the other members of the body know how smart you are. So this year's, we had some good competition. The Delegate Watts from Fairfax, she put on a strong run at the last, but it was not enough to save the Marshall Bell team. It was not enough to save them from the loss. So that means that Delegate Landis and I actually won the pop-up contest this year because we chose wisely. We chose Delegate Simon from Fairfax. And Delegate Simon from Fairfax, this award went to the gentleman from Prince William, Delegate Marshall for years, went to the gentleman from Richmond, Delegate Joe Morrissey. So you are in good company. We hope this isn't your last, but we want to give him the annual Pop-Up Award. You're back.
Mr. Speaker,
Delegate Landis.
We actually have one more award. And, Mr. Speaker, I've enlisted the assistance of Delegate Ware, the gentleman from Powhatan, and some other members. But let me just say before I yield to the gentleman from Powhatan, as you all know, my seatmate is known for a lot of things. Being a supporter of business is one of them. Being a supporter of larger corporations is another. And Delegate Ware and I were really thinking that as part of this presentation today, with this session and some of the legislation that we had to deal with, and legislation that, to be honest, Delegate Ware and I were not too keen on, that we needed to present a special award to the gentleman from Scott, Delegate Kilgore. So I would yield to the gentleman from Powhatan.
Delegate from Powhatan, Delegate Ware.
Mr. Speaker, I have a point of personal privilege.
Delegate has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I think you, Mr. Speaker, are really going to appreciate this award because you have been a longtime fan of the best baseball team money can buy.
Could be a lot of committee openings on the day.
Yeah. You know, and when we come down here, we represent the ordinary citizens, and we're here for them. And each of you have, in your own way, brought a bill or spoken on behalf of the folks that you represent. But, you know, sometimes we need to be thinking about the big boys as well, you know? Even multi-billion-dollar corporations need some love. Yeah. And we thought about this. We thought about what to name this award, and we thought, using the irony that the House is so fond of, we might call it the Henry Howell Award, but we thought better of that. But I'll get to that name in just a moment. But, when you think about the reverse Robin Hood redistribution of funds, who do you think about? You think about, well, we'll get to that in a moment. The first part of this award is actually in here, and it comes compliments of the gentleman from Charlottesville, because in here is a gift card to Merriweather's for ice cream, but it's only enough for a single dip. And as the gentleman from Henrico, our freshman, says, down here it's all about team. And so figuring that we've got a team, we figure we've got to make sure that people know who's on the team and got the hat that covers what they need, right? So one of the presentations we have is a ball cap to identify the team. Finally, I do want to give this award, and we do have the certificate that is typical and part of the Sensitivity Caucus regular presentations, but we have a different presentation as well. And this presentation, you can see, this presentation is the award, and I'm going to tell you the name right now, and I think you're going to find it very fitting. It has logos of appropriate companies on it. And this has also the name of the award. It is the Overdog Award, not the Underdog, but the Overdog Award. And so we thought about how to present this. We do sometimes do it with pages, but we thought there might be somebody who was entirely more appropriate to present the award. Mr. Speaker, the first annual Overdog Award presented to the gentleman from Scott, Delegate Kilgore.
The delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Simon.
Mr. Speaker, members of the House, I can't resist, but I voice for point of personal privilege.
Delegate has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, members of the House, having just won appropriately the Pop-Up Award, I couldn't resist the opportunity here. We've long had these Sensitivity Caucus Awards. And I want to thank the gentleman from Augusta and the gentleman from Scott for a great presentation. Very well thought out, clearly a lot of effort and research, and you spent a lot of time working on those awards. But let's face it, the Sensitivity Caucus Awards are a majority party production. And so this year, in light of the new mix here on the House floor, some of us thought it was time to revive a tradition even older than the Sensitivity Caucus. You see, before we had a Sensitivity Caucus, we had the Coffin Corner. And in the Coffin Corner was sort of where troublemakers and the jokesters and the pranksters always sort of lurked and lived, which is sort of the reason I've kept this desk and avoided the opportunity to move over to the right. In the spirit of proportionality, though, of course, that we've seen in the makeup of committees, we are not going to require equal time or even 49% of the time. We think probably about 2/5 of the time is all we really need to get our awards taken care of. So you've heard of the Emmys, the Grammys, and just this Sunday we saw the Oscars. Well, we've got an awards presentation of our own. And we're calling them, because it's in honor of the Coffin Corner, the Coffees. And now, again, we have sort of put this together at the last minute, so we had to rummage around David Toscano's office, and we were able to come up with 6 David Toscano mugs. So in lieu of a statuette or a record or a crystal, the winners of these awards will get these coffee mugs. Now, we only found about 6. So we only have 6 brief awards, but don't worry, we've got nominees in every category, so we'll get a chance to shout out and recognize a number of folks. So, like I said, we don't have quite as much time. Under the rules of proportionality, we get about 2 minutes for every 4 the Sensitivity Caucus just had. So with that, I'll yield the floor to my seatmate, the gentleman from Enrico, Delegate Bagby.
Point of personal privilege.
Delegate Bagby, you have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, I really didn't want to do this.
I didn't think you did.
Mr. Speaker, I made an agreement with my new seatmate. As you know, I moved over here to the coffin corner to sort of be a babysitter. And I told the gentleman that I would do this with him if he did not get the pop-up award. I felt he didn't deserve the pop-up award, so we had planned this out prior to him getting the pop-up award. So I could sit down, but I feel like he's done what he told me he was going to do this session, and you all don't need to give him a round of applause. But just like the Academy Awards, the first award category is for the best performance by a delegate in a supporting role. And the nominees are the delegate from Shenandoah. I tried to do it like the speaker. The delegate from Shenandoah, Delegate Gilbert, for the line, "It's procedural, James." The delegate from Caroline, Delegate Art, for his helpful question to Delegate Freitas, who encouraged the body to accept an amendment from the Senate in which he reminded him that the House always rejects the clause. Delegate Toscano for his scripted questions in support of my seatmate Delegate Simon's doomed bill for democracy vouchers, a bill that I seem to be the only one to support in the end. Again, trying to fulfill my agreement with my seatmate at the beginning. And for Speaker Cox, every time he reminds a delegate to, every time he says, "Do you want to remove the amendment?"
That's a lot.
And in an effort to kiss up, no, we have one more. Next, Dr. Delegates Stolle and Garrett, not for their effort, but for their Baywatch fashion response. To come and save Delegate Goditis so that she can continue voting on Budget Day. I'm sure that's why they did it. But as you all know, the winner of this award goes to none other than the Dr. Delegates.
This is a Geico commercial.
Mr. Speaker, these won't all be quite so long. Everybody's for a point of personal privilege.
Delegate Simon.
Okay. Now, sometimes the Oscars, they give their technical awards during a separate ceremony that doesn't even get seen on TV. But here in the Coffin Corner, we really appreciate the effort that goes into creating props for use on the floor. So our next category is for Best Technical Achievement in Presenting a Bill. And we only have two nominees. We have the delegate from Henrico County, Delegate Bagby, for the creative use of his Uber variable message sign during his presentation of HB 830, the TNC Partner Vehicle Trade Signage Bill. And the delegate from Chesterfield, Delegate Robinson, for the way she wore those multicolored holiday lights as she presented House Bill 1464 for motorcycles and autocycle auxiliary lighting. And of course, the winner is, well, sorry, Lamont, you can be a member of the Coffin Corner, but you can't ever win one of the awards. The winner is Delegate Robinson for her necklace lights.
Mr. Speaker.
Delegate Bagby.
We'll keep this going just a little bit more. The next category is best use of a child in a floor speech. And the nominees are the delegate from Shenandoah, Delegate Gilbert, for the introduction of baby Gilbert as he tried to grab the mic for himself during a point of personal privilege. The delegate from Culpeper, Delegate Freitas, who brought his daughter, the hair braider, on the floor to ask us to save his child from a life of crime. The delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Tran and Baby E, for their loud clapping during the governor address to the Joint Assembly. And the coffee goes to, because I just want to come to his office one day and see Toscano's mug in his office, the gentleman from Shenandoah.
Mr. Speaker.
Delegate Simon.
All right, we've got a couple more categories here. We've got 3 more mugs to go. Our next category is for the best performance by a millennial in a speech their leadership obviously put them up to. And the nominees are the delegate is Suffolk, Delegate Brewer. The nominee was delegate from Suffolk, Delegate Brewer, for her speech on the potential for an Uber or Lyft tax. The delegate from Enrico, Delegate Van Valkenburg, for his response the very next day. And then, although he's not a millennial, and in fact he's actually a member of the leadership, we also nominated the gentleman from Fairfax, Delegate Hugo, for his Netflix and chill speech. But the winner is Delegate Brewer.
Mr. Speaker.
Delegate Bagby.
Last time I'm getting up. The next award or category, Mr. Speaker, is Best Performance by a Freshman First Bill Defense. Delegate Hurst for refusing to speculate on the leisure time activities of his senior living constituents when asked if they like to watch Netflix and chill. Delegate Carol Ford for knowing exactly how many foreign language students would benefit from her bill. And Delegate Tran for refusing to accept a question from Delegate Simon on a Friday evening. There's no big secret here who wins this award. So, Delegate Tran, congratulations. The next award goes to the best cry. The best cry. The best member, the member that gave the best cry on the floor. No good movie is a good movie without a good cry. So the first individual would be Delegate Landis. Then we would have Delegate Herring, as Delegate Tyler recognized her the other night. That was a beautiful cry. And then my good friend, Delegate Toring. He gave a good cry last week, early this week. And the winner is Delegate Herring.
Clerk will proceed with the conference reports.